Hey everyone, my name's Cass, and this is my first JJK Theory video. But I'm not really one for formalities, so let's just dive right in. For starters, because some people are anime only, I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler-free video as possible. But stronger arguments that rely on spoilers will have timestamps and warnings, so don't be afraid to skip around if needed. Anyways, I've had this theory for a while, or I guess this feeling, something gnawing in the back of my head, that Sukuna's curse technique is to hold the 3 sacred treasures of Japan. I don't really know how the idea got stuck with me or why it got lodged into my mind. Maybe it's because Mahoraga is referred to as a sacred treasure during his summoning, but the idea wouldn't leave me alone. The 3 sacred treasures of Japan are artifacts with mythology attached to each of them, but they did actually exist. And we know a few things Gege loves to use are Japanese myth and folklore, as well as Buddhism as inspirations for Jujutsu Kaisen's story. Now, this theory has a lot of moving parts, and we're going to have to break all of them down. So, to start with, Kusanagi, the grass-cutting sword. Okay, first and foremost, I have to give a massive shout out to YouTube channel Definitely Aizen, and his video Heian Yuji was not human, which I'll leave a link to down below. That theory provided me with the missing link I was looking for. In his theory, he explores the possibility of Sukuna and Yuji being legendary twin brothers. But what's more important to our theory is that Sukuna was Yamato Takaru, the wielder of Kusanagi. Kusanagi is known as the grass-cutting sword, though it was originally known by the name of Heavenly Sword of Gathering Clouds, which is a bit of a mouthful and I can see why they changed the name. But what this sword does is the link that ties all of this together. According to myth, it's said that while wielding this sword, Yamato Takaru discovered the wind would follow the direction of his swing. This might sound like Yamato was a bit of a brute who had incredibly strong swing, but when we think about a certain character who can cut you with invisible slashes, this seems a little more plausible. It's also important to note that Susanoo, the god of storms, found that Ame no Morikumo no Tsurugi. I know I butchered that. This is like the 10th take and I'm not going to do it again. Anyway, the Heavenly Sword of Gathering Clouds, which would later be renamed Kusanagi. While Susanoo isn't super integral to this theory, I do think it's important to note that he comes up in almost all of these myths. I had originally theorized maybe Sukuna had an invisible sword, but when I saw the video about Sukuna being Yamato, I knew Cleave and Dismantle had to be Kusanagi. Then I went back and I watched this fight against Mahoraga, Jogo, and even how he killed Nanako and Mimiko, and I noticed something. I noticed one thing that happens after anything is hit by Cleave or Dismantle: motion. A reaction to a force so strong it buffets and moves buildings and the almighty Mahoraga itself. Even against Mahoraga, we can see the black slashes beat against, tangibly displayed as black cut. While there isn't a lot of visuals aiding to depict wind slashing and cutting, it is a reasonable assumption to assume extremely pressurized wind acting as a cleave is able to cause a similar reaction. But you know what else a lot of wind and friction causes? Heat. Just go back and look at the end of the Mahoraga fight for that one if you need more explanation. Additionally, in the fight in which Yamato discovered the wind controlling properties of the Kusanagi, he was in a grass field being shot at by fiery arrow. I definitely think Jogo versus Sukuna is a little head nod to Yata No Kagami. Yata No Kagami, the 8-handed mirror and a symbol for truth. Now, the Yata No Kagami is the hardest piece of this puzzle to fit, but I believe it's relatively simple. I think the simplest reason is that Sukuna has 4 arms and it's the 8-handed mirror, so when he's holding it, he has 8 hands. Duh. No, but seriously, the mirror is said to represent wisdom and reveal truth. The revealing truth part I find very interesting, considering that when certain strong characters have fallen at the hands of Sukuna, we're able to get a glimpse of a sort of closure conversation between the two, as we see with Jogo and later in the series. I've heard speculation that this is simply the phenomenon of dying, but I believe Gege might be showing us the true core of Sukuna using the mirror. Moving on, the mirror represents wisdom, and although Sukuna might not be the most benevolent character, there is depth to him. I mean, he is the most prolific curse user to have ever existed, or is he? But that aside, having the ability to access knowledge or to boost his wisdom or intellect would make sense in this case. Also, a mirror functionally serves to show us a reflection, and to me this makes the most sense because we see Sukuna using flame arrows on Jogo, who also happens to be a fire user. Now this could just be a coincidence, but I have some more spoiler specific reasoning behind this, so skip ahead for now if you want to remain spoiler free. Okay, so during his fight with Gojo, Sukuna is able to analyze infinity to the point where he can conceive a counter, the ability to slash through space. Now, this could just be chalked up to him being absolutely goated with the sauce, but if we see him pull out a mirror during the fight being animated, just know I told you so. On top of that, during his fight with Kashimo, Sukuna is given the curse tool Kamutoke. While it's suggested that Kamutoke uses electricity, it also somehow reverts Sukuna back to his Heian era body. I personally believe this could just be Kamutoke serving as a conduit to boost his own ability though. That way it serves as a red herring and pushes my agenda. Additionally, the mirror is called the 8-hand mirror, but Maharaga is called the 8-handled sword. Now, this could just be a coincidence, but Maharaga is also called a sacred treasure by Megumi. There are 10 heavenly treasures, of which Maharaga could be one. The 10 shadows, the 10 heavenly treasures, but I'm using the word heavenly as an important distinction, while Maharaga is also referred to as Yatsuka no Tsurugi, I think that's right. The sword of the 10 heavenly treasures is also known as Tatsuka no Tsurugi. I couldn't find any information linking the two names, so for me it's up in the air, but 8-handed and handled are too similar, and regardless could be the primary reason Sukuna took interest in Megumi to beef up his arsenal, as we see him use the wheel during his fight with Gojo. Yasakani no Magatama. Yasakani no Magatama, the sacred jewel. Although, from what I have seen, it's either a string of multiple jewels or a single jewel. In this case, we'll be focusing on, firstly, in the Nihon Shoki, or the Chronicles of Japan, Susanoo, the god of storms, gave Amaterasu, the sun goddess, the Magatama. She then bit off pieces of the Magatama and blew them away to create the other god. Now, this is incredibly interesting considering the amount of biting and devouring we see throughout the series by both Sukuna and Yu. While this isn't directly supporting anything, it is interesting to think that Sukuna's fingers were scattered and served to either ward off cursed spirits when sealed, like in chapter 1, or lure powerful cursed spirits, a bulk of which were gathered by the disaster spirit. Creating other gods, disaster spirits appearing. I don't know. Another legend in the Nihon Shoki says that in the year 58, Emperor Suinin's dog killed and then disemboweled a badger, and a Magatama was discovered in its stomach, which I find very reminiscent of certain cursed spirits and characters eating Sukuna. Just saying. While the Yasakani no Magatama is made of jade, when you look at older Magatama, primarily clay ones, they look eerily similar to Sukuna's fingers. But when you couple in the association of eating, I think we might be cooking with gasoline. What's even funnier is that the sacred jewel is said to ward off evil and bring good fortune and longevity, and is often referred to as a symbol of benevolence. But when we think about the inverse of benevolence, we get Malevolent Shrine. Come on now, man. Not to mention, eating the finger has done nothing for Yuji but bring him misfortune and suffering. However, Sukuna seems to receive all the associated benefit. The jewel has a power that makes sense for how Sukuna was able to turn his body into cursed items and essentially continue to live on, which could cover the aspect of longevity. Now, I know all of these things might seem minor in the grand scheme of things. I didn't want to speculate too wildly on how they could be incorporated into a power system like curse techniques, but simply show the reasoning as to why I think these things make up Sukuna's curse technique, Malevolent Shrine, as well as a simple taste of the power that it holds. All in all, it's just a theory and I'm excited to see what Sukuna's curse technique actually is. If I'm wrong, no big deal, but if I'm right, I hope you'll be joining me in the I told you so party that I'll be throwing. So let me know down below in the comments if you think I'm Soma Yukihira in the kitchen with it, or I'm Michael Jordan at the end of Space Jam, aka Stretch Armstrong. That being said, if you enjoyed the video and want to see some more of the out there theories that I have, leave a like and comment. And you might as well subscribe to get notified if I do this again. Thanks for watching, and remember, you are my special.